Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another tutorial of Salesforce Makes Sense. This is Himanshu and we are continuing our Lightning Web Components masterclass. In the last tutorial, what we talked about was how to override or actually look at and try to handle the default event propagation, and we had the on load, on error, on submit and on success functions available, right, wherein we can do a bit extra compared to what the Lightning data service provides. But now I want to specifically talk about real things, right? Not always will you find that the Lightning data service is the way to go, because it might not be the use case or might not fit the use case that business requires. So I just put a slide here wherein I'll talk about this specifically. What if Lightning data service is not enough for my use case? That's the question, right? So in case you still have to go a bit custom, not being able to use the standard thing exactly how it is, or maybe tweak a bit, or do something beyond what LDS does, we might have to do a mix and match of certain things. So if you have requirements where record creation is not straightforward, and you need to take a custom route, meaning you have to handle the fields that you are wanting the user to input, or do something extra around after the record is created, or do some navigation or some alert, Lightning data service might not be your default way to go. You cannot just directly use the Lightning record form or the edit form and create a record, right? So instead what you'll have to do is you'll have to create a custom form from scratch. So you cannot just simply say that give me these 3 fields and it will start showing up like we did here. So if I go back to, let's say, Safari, I have this right here. We did not have to create all of this, right? Only we created when we had to give an order, but it automatically took the pick list values because of the field binding. Yeah. But what if you wanted to do something more beyond? So you have to create a custom form from scratch. So that's entirely your thing that you're going to manage, and you'll have to handle all actions and submissions through your own code. You cannot do the on load, on submit, on success directly. Yeah. So even though you have handled all the submissions manually, you can still, there's a silver lining to it. You can still use the UI record API. Why do we use the UI record API for? We use it for basically using the create record function, right? Which will allow you to still be able to call the Apex or server side without having to write any code there. You can do it directly from JavaScript. So there's still some silver lining. You can use the UI record API. We'll see that how to do that. Okay. And the create record function is nothing but it returns a promise once it is resolved, meaning you'll be able to do things after the record is created. So you can use async await to handle the promise, wait for the creation, and action the next steps accordingly. Okay. And in case, let's say there's a failure, some validation rule got triggered, some trigger failed, some limit exception has come, you can still work on the promise. If it is rejected, you can do the error handling. Make sense? So what we'll do is we'll try to look at this example and try to do it ourselves. Yeah. So I'm on VS Code right now. I'll just get rid of this previous components, and I have not committed this to, let me just go ahead and commit it to the Git branch. So I have GitHub here, LWC masterclass, and in here we are continuously posting stuff. So if you see LWC, all the things that we have discussed are available. So if you want to refer the code, you can go into that particular code, look at the HTML, copy and use it, and try to make sense out of it. All right, great. Let's go back and I'll just go ahead and push this particular code. So this is another component. This was for the previous tutorial that we did. I'll just go ahead and say default propagation, right? So let me just go ahead and say event propagation example. That's my commit message. I'll go ahead and say commit. I'll push my commit to the branch, and as soon as I do this, it is synced. And if I go back to my browser and if I refresh my page here, I'll see a note coming up. See, this was 3 weeks ago. And if I refresh this right here, I'll see minutes ago or seconds ago showing up here. Not here. I'll have to go back to LWC. And yes, you see just now this commit has come up. Now, if I have to click and open this, you will see that, this is the 4 files that I've sent. All right, great. So that's into our Git repository. You can just, refer this Git repository as and when you like. Everything is available here. All right, great. Now let's come back to our example. I'll go ahead and say edit page. I'll get rid of this component, move it to the right side as we do always, and we'll work on the main screen. Let's go ahead and move this guy here. Let's say save. So our main section is empty now, and let's go back. I'll go back to VS Code, and what I'll do is I'll simply say Command Shift P on a Mac and Control Shift P on a Windows. Create Lightning Web Component. I'll say custom form case creator. All right, or let's just say custom case creator, meaning the form is custom, okay, but this object is still standard, right? So I've created this component, and just like our ritual, we are going to go ahead and take this particular lightning home page exposure and target config, and we are just going to take it here in our new component. So it is exposed and it is going to be targeted to a home page. Let's go ahead and say deploy. And you know what I do, I normally just have a lightning card created so that we have that white background coming up and with a good title showing up. So I'll just say custom case creator form. All right, let's go ahead and say deploy one more time. You can deploy it from the folder level. You can right click and deploy here as well. Both of them work. They deploy the entire folder, not a single file. Okay, I'm going to say go ahead and say edit page. And I'm going to drop my component, which is custom case creator. Let's go ahead and say move here. And if I were to just get rid of this and I want to show you, see how many components we've actually built. These are all small use cases, not, you know, a very full-time thing, but a good amount of learnings have been done, right? So let's go ahead and say save. Looks good. Let's go back. Now coming to our use case, what do we have to do? We basically have to ensure that we are allowing the user to fill in mandatory fields, but this time the limitation is I don't have LDS at my disposal, so we cannot use lightning view form, edit form, record form. That's the limitation, but this time LDS is not available. That's our limitation. Okay, so starting with this limitation, I have to, you know, figure out, okay, then what do? I basically ask user multiple inputs, correct? What do I ask for? Let's say I'll ask for the subject, which is important for a case. I'll ask for what is your priority, okay, and I'll ask for, let's say I'll put a default status, okay, or let's put a description. Okay, let's say you're creating a Salesforce case, all right, and we can probably just have these three things. Now to be able to do this, I cannot use LDS, meaning I have to start from scratch, correct? So how do I start from scratch? I go to Safari, I'll go ahead and say I need to do input, right? So I'll say lightning hyphen input, I'll say enter. The first documentation more or less will always be the Salesforce documentation, so I'm just going to go ahead and say open. All right, now that I have the documentation available here, I'll go to the example, and here you can see all types of input that you want. Now what do you need for subject? You basically need, let's say, a text box. All right, so I'm going to look at the text input. This is how it looks. What is the advanced one? Let's see what is the difference between default and advanced. Okay, so okay, this highlights, I don't want this fancy highlight, I'm okay for now. Okay, I'll go ahead and say text default. This is the default one, and you can have a default value. So all example that you see here in the preview, everything is defined here in the HTML. So you can just, you know, copy and paste this particular section. Okay, then what else is there? Let's see, let's scroll a bit down. Required, so I want a required one. See, complete this field, because subject is going to be mandatory. I'll choose this one. I'll scroll down, and a text input field that is required. Below this is the default div, correct? So I'm going to just take this input and I'm going to bring it in my Salesforce LWC code. So I'll just take this div altogether. Let's take the divs to have the basic padding and the, you know, background. So this is coming from SLDS, this is coming from SLDS. The type is text, and here the label will basically be enter case, enter subject. Okay, and I'll say type your subject here. Cool. And this required flag will ensure that you cannot submit a form without putting this value. Automatically it will take care of it. That's the first thing. What's the second thing I need? I need description, right? So for description, what do I have? Let's see, I have text input, which is again the thing I need. What about text area? Because I need a bigger one, right? I need, for example, you want to type something very long. So I'll go back and I'll say lightning text area. I'll just do a search. So text area is also available. Okay, I'll go to example. I'll look at this example. There's only one option available, which is good enough, I believe. So you see, this is a big thing. And now here you have placeholder, initial value, advanced, disabled. I just need a basic one. So the basic one, the first one. So I'll just take that right away. All right. And now I'll just take this one and I'll move it to my code. Okay. I'll keep it inside the parent div. That's my second thing. What's the second thing? This is basically my description. All right, and I'll say enter the issue you are facing. All right, but I'll not keep this as mandatory because you might not have a reason to give me at this point. Okay, so that's the text area. What else did I say we needed? We need the priority, correct? Now priority is a drop down essentially, correct? So the priority is a drop down, meaning I cannot have a text. I don't want you to type, very high priority. I want you to choose from a set of fields. So what do we do? So what I can do is, if I do not know which component to use, I'll simply say LWC pick list example. All right, let's see. So it's showing combo box. So let's open this because this is a Salesforce development documentation, and let's see if it allows us to choose a drop down. Yes, it does. So these kind of basic searches, basic hits can land you into the right place in the right time and save you some time. That's the whole idea. So look at this option. It gives you what? New, in progress, finished. I chose finish. It is finished. New. Cool. That's what I need, right? I need you to be able to say my case priority is high, low, or medium. That's what I need, correct? So I can very well go ahead and choose this particular combo box. You might, right? You might think, Imanshu, why you are not taking the entire thing? Because I don't need the entire thing. I just need this particular input capability. That's why just be a bit smart and pull in whatever you need exactly. Don't pull in entire code. Don't just, blindly copy paste. Understand what you're copying and then paste it. All right. So this is my lightning combo box, which will act as my priority selection. So then the name is going to be priority. Label is going to be priority. Let's not map the value yet. The placeholder will be select priority. Options are not there yet, but I'll talk about it. And on change, let's remove the on change for now. Okay, we'll handle the events. All right, so now options. What are these options? I copied the code from here. Let's look at the JS file. It says options are here, and you can just have a label and a value around it. All right, so for now, I'm just going to keep this as is. Okay, and I'll just replace the values. We'll tweak it later. So this is my options. This will be inside my JS file, and these are my options. What is essentially? This is essentially a getter method. So whenever on your HTML, it sees, oh, okay, you have bound something with a merge field syntax, it will go to JS. It will see where is options. Is it defined as a variable? No, not defined as a variable. Then is there a getter defined? Yeah, getter is defined. The name is options. So this is exactly the getter. What does it need? It will return this value. This value will be stamped here in the options field. And that's how you'll be able to see the drop down. So the first value will be, let's say, low. Second one will be medium. And the third one will be high. All right. I'll keep the values in small case, and then this should be high. Okay. The label is what you will see on the screen. So that's my options getter. This is my HTML code. Nothing fancy, nothing huge, but a good decent start to begin with. So I'll get rid of the comments now. I'll just keep some dummy spacing for now, and I'll say deploy. And let's see with just this amount of code, how does the screen look like? All right, let's come back here. I'll say refresh. Awesome. My form is created, but nothing functioning, but yeah, a good template is there. So I'll say, see subject, if I remove it, it says complete. Select priority, it gives me the low, medium, high option, and text box is basically a text box. You can enlarge it. All right. So I'll say my subject, unable to resolve my SFDX get issue. All right. Priority is medium, and I'll say, hi Himanshu, can you help me with it? So this is essentially what am I looking at in terms of filling up the form and submitting it. Now what is left? The user is able to input values, but what is really happening behind the scenes and what should happen? A case should get created, correct? So how do I ensure that a case is created? I have to actually create a button so that you can click on that button which submits a case or submits a JavaScript call. All right. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use a lightning button. All right, again, you can go ahead and do this and write it on your own, or look at the library. When you are on a library, you will see button should also be available. Yes, it is. Click on the button, and again, you have options. Do you want inverse? All of these options available. Blue button, this button, buttons with icons. this option, or you can look at buttons with custom on click actions. Let's look at this. What does this contain? So it has, you know, this eye color and all of this stuff. All right, I want to look at buttons. What are inverse buttons? Let's see. Inverse buttons have, you know, contrasting colors. So you see, this is the background is contrasted and this is how it would show. But I don't need a background one. What about buttons with icons? Let's look at this. So if I were to look at, let's say this particular one, or let's say the blue one. So blue one is nothing but the variant of brand. So if I look at variant brand, this one right here is what I need. I'm going to go ahead and copy just this one particular line, remove this line that I wrote myself. Let's get rid of this side box. Let's close this window so that your view is a bit clean. All right, variant is brand, the label will be submit or create case, or, you know, just hit go, or whatever, okay, whatever floats your boat. Create case. The title will also be create case. Okay, the icon name is utility download. We'll talk about it in a while, but I also want to ensure that this particular button is around a div so that we have that relevant spacing from the form, and this is a bit below. It's not in the same area. All right, and what I want to do is I just want to have a top margin so that it is a bit below. That's all. I'll get rid of this particular background, you know, whatever this is, I'll get rid of it, and that's my button. Utility download. Cool. Let's go ahead and say deploy. Deploy it fine. Let's go back to Safari. I'll say refresh one more time, and now a magical button should appear, which is having the name as create case. Fancy, but the download icon is incorrect, because when you're creating, you're not downloading. So what do you need to do? You need to have a better icon, correct? So I'll go to the library again, and here somewhere I should be able to see, let's go to the documentation. I'll search for icon, and you see you have this icons library available. So I'll go to this library, and here I can see all the potential icons that I can use. Now you can choose whatever you want. So one of them is like, you know, this one, I can use the add, yeah. But if you notice, you have used the utility icons. So here you have utility, doc type, standard, custom, action. So I'm going to go into utility, which is this particular set right here, and just choose anything. Let's see, what do we like? I am seeing this is good. All right, so we can use this. Or what else? Anything else which is a bit fancy? This is good. This is good. Anything, whichever, you know, you want to go ahead with, you can go ahead with. Okay, let's take the choice. Okay, I'll just take the choice, and I'll say utility : choice. That's all you need to do, and that will replace the icon. Okay, and these are all, you know, auto stored SVGs that you are using. You're not having to create a SVG file for this icon. That's the beauty. Salesforce is letting you use some predefined SVG icons with your buttons. They are integrated with this icon name under these namespaces. Let's go back, come here, refresh. Yeah, and now you have this particular icon showing up. Perfect. All right, now you have the icon here, you have these particular form fields. If you want to move this to the center, you can do it. If you want to move this to the right, you can do it. All you need is the right SLDS class. Okay, great. The good part is done. The business is going to look at this. They're not going to look at what happens behind the scenes. So the good part is done, which is the UI. Now you need to actually work and struggle to get the functionality working. That's the real deal. That's the crux of it, or else it is just a static page. All right, now we'll progress into how to handle this from a JS side, as in what do you have to do. I'll come to the JS part here, and I'll just again write down things that we need to do. Right, first things first, we need to define some variables and bind them with the input that we have created on the form. So essentially, how many inputs do you need? 3. One would be the subject, one would be the priority, and one would be the description. So why not go ahead and create those variables? So I'm going to just go ahead and say subject, priority, and then description. 3 variables defined. Now, if you want to ensure that these variables have the value that you have chosen on the form, what do you have to do? You have to assign them as the value attribute here. You'll have to bind them, correct? So you'll say value equal to subject. So what will happen? Whatever you choose here is going to be bound to this particular variable which is available in JavaScript. That's the idea, correct? So I'm going to do this here. The same thing we have to do for the combo box, and then this right here will be the priority, and then this right here would be the description. 3 variables created, all of them have been bound to the HTML side of it. Perfect, perfect, amazing. That's done. Now how do you ensure that the value is bind? Okay, you have told that I have 3 variables, and you have told that I have defined them and tag them here, but whenever you do something on this box or this box or this box, LWC needs to know what do I need to do so that I'm able to bind it really to this value. Correct? That's where you need listeners. That's where you need event listeners. What are those event listeners? As soon as you fill this form, you can invoke the onChange listener. So whenever the value of this input field is changed, you want to populate the subject. That's your method name. Whenever you are selecting any kind of pick list drop down, you want to populate the priority. All right, and whenever you're modifying this particular description field, you want to populate the description. What have we done? We have created 3 event listeners which are going to listen to this events that you do here, meaning you are going to type Himanshu. As soon as you have typed this is an on change, it will actually trigger your event method. As soon as you choose something, that will trigger an event. As soon as you type, this is triggering an on change listener. All right, and every time that on change listener runs, it will go to the JavaScript and it will basically call that particular method here. And it is coming from a lightning input, so you will always have an event. We have discussed this a lot many times. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to take populate subject, populate priority, and then populate description. These 3 things. Event is available. This will help us understand which HTML element has triggered it, and basically what has been triggered. So we'll get to know. Okay, and what do we do here? We look at event.detail, or let's say event.target.value. We look at this, right? So whatever is the value here is going to be assigned to subject attribute, correct? And you see, as soon as it is used, it becomes non-gray. The other 2 are grayish. It's not black because they're not being used. So you can see whatever is gray in your JS code, you can realize, okay, I did not use it. For example, if you put comma API here, see, you're not using it anywhere, so it's showing gray. As soon as you start using it, it will be black. Good indicator to clean up things that are not needed. Priority equals this. This should be event.detail.value. Okay, and then description, again event.detail.value, and I'm going to assign it to the description. Okay, before writing a lot of code, okay, I mean, when you're starting off, this is something that helped me a lot. Before writing too many lines of JavaScript code, always make sure you are actually reaching the points where you are expecting to reach. Put a console log everywhere. Okay, so you put a console log so that you can monitor, okay, did this method actually get triggered or not, or else you'll be stuck. Okay, so what you can do is you can simply say event.detail.value. You can just print this out. I made a typo. This should be event. Okay, I'll just take this particular line and paste it in each of the methods so that I can show you, and even I can see for myself when is this particular method getting triggered. Okay, let's say deploy. Deployed fine. Let's go back to Safari, and I'm going to go ahead and open the console. Let's go to the console. Let's clean it up. This console it is a bit different from Chrome, so you might feel a bit different, but the console tab shows the same kind of things that you see in Chrome, okay, or Edge or any other browser. I've refreshed it. Nothing should show up right now. This is coming from the remaining methods that we have. I'll clean it up, and now just see what happens. Okay, I'll go ahead and say delete. Perfect. Now if I click, I'll say call. You see, every time I'm typing, the on change listener is getting called, and it is actually taking a look at what is the value, and it is storing it in the subject variable. CALL, C on change was called, CA on change was called, and so on and so forth. I click here, I say medium. See, medium has come here. This is the value because it is small, because I've defined it in the small what do you call, in the small case. That's why it's coming as ms small. Description, I am tired of doing this right now, so I need to restart my machine. See how the on change listener is actually listening to everything that you are typing. It's kind of, monitoring you behind the scenes, and it's calling the on change listener, and for every character entered, the on change listener is triggered. And finally, once you stop here and click outside or whatever, the on change listener has already mapped this value to the description field. Make sense? So now you can say that yes, I have all the three values that I needed: the subject, the priority, and the description. They are available on the JavaScript side. Okay, here I have used target, right? I can use the detail dot value, not a problem, because the detail dot value is giving me the information. Okay, now that I have confirmed that my logs are showing up, I can clean it up also immediately. This is a good practice. Clean it up immediately. So this bit is done. What's my next bit? Now the next bit is again another important bit. I have the values. Now I want to create the case without calling Apex or server side. I want to call and talk to the server directly from JavaScript, from this file right here. That's my next step. Correct? So what do? I actually am using a button here, which is this button. So when will my trigger be called? It will be called when I click on the button, meaning I have to have a on click listener. And always remember, your bindings are not within double quotes. Okay, that's a static thing. You should always bind without using your double quotes. So you'll say create case. That's your method name. All right, I'll copy this name, go to JavaScript and create a method out of it. Okay, I don't have the event here. Okay, it's not an event here, but you can actually do whatever you want to do based on the data that you have. All right, now if I go back to my keynote, I told you guys that even though you have handled all the submissions manually, you can still use UI record API to create the record without having to call server side methods. The create record function returns a promise and all of this stuff. So what I want to do is I want to look at the create record function. Let's close this now. I'll go ahead and say create record example LWC. All right, so you see the first example is coming, and nowadays you have this AI overview. It is giving you good information and it's giving you code as well. All right, and if you notice, it's very similar to what I'm doing right now. This is name, industry, rating. I'm creating a case. They're creating an account. All right, so either you can just go ahead and use this right here, or else you can actually go into the documentation and refer and kind of understand, okay, what is happening behind the scenes. If you want to read a bit more around it, you can actually do that. Okay, and if you notice, the create record comes from the UI record API. So the first thing we have to do is we will have to import it. You cannot use it until you import it, correct? Because it's a capability that is coming from a namespace. So I'm going to say import create record from the Lightning namespace using the UI record API module. It is gray. Why? Why is it gray? Because it's not being used yet. So I'm going to go ahead and start using it here. Okay, I want to call the create record here. That's what I want to do. But when I'm creating my record, what is it that I need? We'll look at it from the documentation perspective so that you understand how to go through it. So if I scroll down, it says that you have to put in two things, the API name and the field. So if you look at a bit below, you'll be able to see an example, and we can actually look at this. See the create record. All right, so the create record is the method that's called. It is taking one parameter. What is that parameter? It is an object. It is an object that contains two things. One is the API name and the other one is the fields. See, if you have to create a record, what do you need to tell the system? You need to tell the system that I want to create XYZ object record, and this is the values that I want to put in these many fields. That's what you need to say, and that's it, right? That's all you are showing here. The API name of the object and the fields that you want to send to. All right, so we are going to go ahead and invoke the create record. But if you notice, there's an await keyword, meaning because it is an async await function, it returns a promise. You can actually wait for the promise to be resolved. Remember in the JavaScript classes, we actually looked at promise, and await and async and fetch, all of that stuff, that's coming in handy here. Okay, the benefit of await is basically you can actually wait until it is resolved and you can accordingly action it as and when the results show up. All right. So what am I going to do? I can actually go to my code, and if you notice, we need the record input object to be passed, correct? And I need to define that record input object somehow. Okay, and when I do that, I can actually call this method. I can await until this result comes, but I can only await if my method, my parent method, is async. Only then it will work. See, without the async, it throws an error. So you cannot just have await, you have to have an async await. Async is basically telling the system that, you know, behind the scenes, asynchronously call this method and wait until you receive the response from this particular server call. And as soon as you receive the response, you can go ahead and do your thing. So I'm going to just, you know, assign it to a variable. And whatever is returned from this particular method from the server side will be awaited, and as soon as it reaches, it will be assigned to this particular variable right here. Make sense? Now, the only bit that's pending is this record input that I need to pass. So what do I need to pass to the server? I need to tell the system the object API name and the list of fields. So right now, what do I know? I know that I'm creating a case object. So I know that, okay, I have to get the object API name should be case. Okay, and I have subject, priority, and description values coming from my UI. I have these fields, right? I have all of this, but I need to give it to this particular variable in the right format. All right, so for us to be able to get the object API name, it is always good to actually use the schema import and get it from the database. What am I going to do? I'm going to write another import statement, import from, and I want to import it from the Salesforce schema. So you say Salesforce, we talked about this, right? The import statements, and I simply say case. So what will this do? This will basically help me import the case object API name. All right, and I'll simply say case API name. And it's a good practice to have all of this capital and with underscores. It helps you identify in your very big code what all is being imported. If you use this common concept, right, this nomenclature, everything capital, whenever you're doing an import from Salesforce schema, keep it capital with underscore separators. Anywhere you see it is being used, you can actually go right at the top and see, okay, this is being imported from this way. Okay, so that's my first input. What's my second input? The list of fields. Correct. So fields is again a object, and this object is nothing but it contains multiple fields. So what I can do is I can create a fields object, and inside this fields object I can pass key value pairs. Correct. And I can actually define it by saying that fields of subject is going to be this dot subject. Okay. Fields of priority, when I say of, I mean the priority value. Priority key is basically being assigned this value, and then description is being assigned the description value, and these three values are coming from where? From the handle methods or the handle change methods that we have written here. All the three values are available. Cool. And this fields is basically what is being passed to my record input. And now that I have the record input here, I can simply say let record input, and I can just use this record input and pass it to my create record method. Perfect. All right. This right here, you have to actually have the API name being passed. Why? Because I noticed here you have to say that this is the API name. So you have to have the API name and you have to pass this particular value. What does this mean? This means from the schema, account object is being passed, and you need to take the API name. So this is the entire object metadata. From the object metadata, what do you want? You want the API name of the object, right? So what you have to do is you'll have to say API name is equal to case API name dot object API name. So I think this variable name is a bit incorrect. So we should say case object only, case obj. And I'll say case object dot object API name should be assigned the API name. This will evaluate to nothing but case at the end. Okay, and the fields will basically be an object wherein these three values are passed for these three API name values, API names, or rather the fields. Now you cannot do this hard coded ideally. What? Because The actual API name might vary for a standard or a custom field, so it's always safe and it's always recommended to again import each API name from the Salesforce schema. So I'm going to say again import from @Salesforce/schema, and this time what do I need? I need a specific field from a case object. So I'll say case dot and I can say subject. Okay, I can say priority. So if these are fields in the case object, it will import the entire metadata from the schema. It will import the metadata information as in the API name and the value and the label, whatever. Okay, and this is going to be description. Again, I need to give them a name, so I'll say subject, I'll say priority, and I'll say description. So I have these three things, but they're not being used. I want to go ahead and start using them. All right, now because this is the field metadata, I can simply use it here, and this is the entire field. What do I need? I need the API name. So because it is a field, it is basically containing a attribute called field API name, and this will evaluate to subject essentially. What we wrote, statically, now it will be a bit dynamic. So I say priority dot object API name. I say description dot object API name. Oops, not object API name, field API name. Okay, I was just going with the flow. This should be field API name because these are fields. Okay, done, sorted. So now you have been able to actually call the create record method, which is still allowing you to create the record without writing any Apex code, correct? And you're able to call this particular method, and this method will take care of creating the record. Make sense? But what if you want to actually do a bit more custom? So you have done this right now, and now what you want to do is, as soon as a record is created, either this will happen or error will come, correct? One of this will happen. You actually want to alert it. I'm just giving a very simple alert example right now. I'm not doing a full use case of, take the user to that record page. For now, we have not covered navigation and notifications, but let's say you want to alert it. So what do? As soon as you write an async await method, you can actually use the callback. You can do a then, or you can do a catch. Okay, this is available. So what will you do? You'll say, if I'm writing an async code and I'm awaiting the response from it, as soon as the response comes, then what do? In that case, I don't need to define this variable. Okay, so what I can do is I can simply say dot then, for the record I run something, and for the, let me just fix this out, and for the error I run something. Okay, I think there's an extra bracket here. This is my record element. Yeah, this is fine. Cool. What have I done? I've actually told the system that I want to create a record, but as soon as that happens, I want to then do something which goes right here, or else I do something in case an error comes, gracefully handle it. Either things will come here. Either this will happen or this will happen. One of the two will happen. Make sense? Now when a record is created, you have that record attribute coming if it is all successful. But if the record is not created, meaning an error has come, so you have these two objects available from the create record function. Let's verify. Let's go in here and let's look at a create record example. If I come here and I look at the Google AI overview, and let's look at await record, you see this record is getting assigned directly. They're using it here. They're not using the dot then dot catch concept. That's okay, but we are going to try it out, because they're not handling the error here. Yeah, they are right. So if you see, what have they done? Oh, they have done a try catch block. I'm not doing a try catch block. I'm doing a catch on the create record itself. If create record fails, you have the catch block available there as well. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and not use the variable, and I'm going to simply say await create record. And as soon as that happens, then if you get the record, then show me what did you create. Okay, I want to just get the record ID or something. I'll say alert, your case has been successfully submitted. And here I want to associate the record.id. Cool. Or else I'll say that there has been an error, right? Sorry, something went wrong. All right, and here I can just pass the error because I'll have the error message coming from the server side. Okay, now in this error object, you actually have an error body, and that body contains a message basically. Okay, so if you look at the documentation, you'll be able to see that this error object has a lot of capabilities. You want to get the information of the fields or the exact message, you look at the right object attribute. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and say deploy. I think we have done this as well, so I'll get rid of the comments to clean my code up a bit, remove the extra spacing, and I'll deploy it again. And I'm hoping, after writing a good amount of line of code, I'm hoping that it goes all well, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Let's go back. Let's go to Safari and let's say refresh. I'm going to clean everything up, this also, and I'm going to say subject. I'll say unable. Okay, let's say want to learn more. Priority is high because I'm always a learner. The issue I'm facing is I am not finding the right tutorials to start my journey. Okay, so I fill in the form and I want to say submit, create case. So you see your case has been successfully submitted. Amazing, that was very quick, and I have the record ID here. Not an amazing experience, but you have the record ID showing up. I'll say close, and that's your record. How do you look at the record? I'll go to the URL and I'll say paste my case ID and let's look at it. If I close this whole thing, I should be able to see my case. So the case has been created. I want to learn more. The priority is very high and the status is new. So let's assign this to Himanshu and he can actually look at it and help you with it like he's doing. All right. So amazing. I was not sure that the thing would work, but yes, I think what we did was pretty much correct and perfect. Right. Coming back to the JS file, a quick recap of what we have done. We have done everything on our own. We have not used Lightning Data Service, but we have been able to replicate exactly what Lightning Data Service does. But this time it was a bit custom. You had to take care of everything. Okay. And make sure that you're writing this code on your side as well. You're not just looking at it like, just getting the video done. Don't do that. Try to do it on your side as well. You'll make n number of mistakes and that's how you'll learn. Okay, so we did the handle change methods. We stored the values into variables and then we created an async await method, which is basically how the create record works because it returns a promise. That promise was returned successfully in this case, wherein we received a record and we were able to see the record ID. I can add a space here so that the record ID is a bit more visible. Okay, what you can do is you can look at what this record attribute contains. Does it contains the name or stuff like that? Then you can alert that information as well. Okay, the tricky part here, there were two tricky parts. One tricky part is the syntax. Okay, so whenever you're struggling with syntax, don't think that you do not know, what it means, but you can always just look at it in this angle. See, I'll show you. And I would recommend writing it more times and not copy pasting it every time, but write it 4 or 5 times. Then you will understand, okay, what is the syntax kind of trying to say. Okay, and then you'll be able to figure it out. So if you want to do a then catch, meaning you want to actually handle your promise, and when the promise is resolved, you want to do something then, or you want to catch the error that has come. Okay, so you write await, you write the method name, and then inside the method you always pass a parameter. So far so good. Now here you don't put a semicolon. Why? Because you want to do something then, so you put a dot then here. So essentially if you put all of this in a single line, this is how it would look like. But because it is a bit difficult to read in a single line, because there's a lot going on, it is always better to, move it outside. So if you look at just this part, you call the method, then after the dot, you're doing something then. So if the method was called, then what do? I handle it here. If the method was called, something went wrong, so I do a catch. Okay, now when we are doing a then, in that case, you always have a record in hand because everything has gone fine. But when you are doing a catch, in that case, you always have an error object. Okay, the then and the catch work in a key value pair concept, kind of, the callback handler concept. In case of a then, you have a record that's in your hand, which is this particular value. Okay, that's the kind of the variable or the callback handler, which is why it is inside a bracket. Okay, or you can even do this. This is also fine. All right, so in case of a then, you will have a record. You use that record to continue. Okay, that record callback, and inside this curly brace you handle your code. If it is an error, and then in this callback, in the error callback, you do this particular code, and finally you end it with a semicolon. Now if you are able to understand the syntax, use it anywhere. All your wire methods, all imperative calls, everywhere you want to use a then and catch, this is the syntax, nothing fancy. If you want to call a custom method of your own that's calling server, you can have n number of field key value pairs here, as in the attributes or the parameters. But because we are using create record, it has 2 parameters only. That's why ideally it has only one, which is an object. That object contains 2 parameters. Because it is from Salesforce LWC, it is coming in a specific syntax and we have to follow it. It expects the API name and the fields. So API name, we took it from the import, from the case object, and we took the object API name. Simple. For fields, we created a map. Essentially, this is nothing but a map. This is evaluating to the subject value being mapped to the subject, priority mapped to priority, description mapped to description. Now from where is the API name, the exact right API name of the field coming from? It's coming again from the Salesforce schema. So we imported it, we took it, and we used it by calling the field API name. Okay, so if I were to show you, before this going beyond, I can just show you how does the fields object look like. Okay, and I'll just not do this for now, so that you're able to see without the alert. I'll just stop it here, and this was just for explanation. Let's get rid of it. Save. I'll say deploy one more time. So try writing all of this on your side. Try making notes of what I'm trying to say, so that it sticks in your mind. Don't just watch the video and just be done with it. Don't watch it at 11 p.m. as the only video. Try to sit on your computer or your laptop and do it parallelly. Yeah, let's go back to home. Let's close this tab. I'll open the console again, and this time when we click on the button, we should see a map. I'll show you how it looks. So subject, I'm going to put a subject. Let's go. I don't know. All right, priority is low. Okay, this should be low. Enter the issue you're facing. Not facing any issues, just making sense of everything. All right, great. I'll say create, and if you notice, okay, it came as a proxy, but I might have to create case. I might have to remove the async from here, and I might have to just do a stringify, I guess, so that we are able to see the actual result. Yeah, let me just put a let keyword here, so that, or it should be fine. A const is also fine. Let's say deploy one more time. Deployed. Let's refresh one more time. Let's go back. Let's close this off. Let's go. Priority is low, no issues, just making sense. Let's say create. It's still showing a proxy somehow. It's something wrong. There could be something wrong. I wish I could show you. Let me do this. Let's look at the sources, and let's go to custom case creator JS, and in this file I want to look at the create case method, right? So create case is not here, it's here. Yeah, and I want to print this, right? So I'll just put a debugger. Okay, now if I click on create, you see it will stop here, and it's looking at this particular subject. See, the API name is evaluating to subject. This one is evaluating to priority. The second one is evaluating to priority. Third one is evaluating to description. What is the value? The value is let's go, low, and no issues, just making sense. Perfect. And then this particular log right here is an object. It is not actually giving any information. I believe LDS is not letting us do it, but this object is containing all of these three things. All right, let me go ahead and continue. If yeah, it has already, given me the information. But yeah, so this is, if I look at the E from here, it does not show any properties. That's okay. But essentially, this is containing the entire field metadata versus the value, the API name versus value in key value pairs, essentially. Okay, and that's what's being passed to the record input variable, which in turn is sending it to the create record method. All right, just see if you can log it somehow, and if you are also not able to log it, it's okay. I'll just put the async back here. I thought I could show that to you, but it's not showing the information. It's coming as a proxy object somehow, but yeah, that should be fine. All right, let's deploy the final version again, and I'll go back to my Git and I'll say custom case record creator, or let's put it a bit short, custom case creation using create record. All right, I've just committed everything, and I'll say sync changes, close. Let's go back here. I'll say refresh, close my console. I have the form here. Perfect. Great. I'll go back to my GitHub, and if I refresh this page, I should see my latest commit, custom case creation, and I have this particular files uploaded. So you can take it from here for your reference. All right, but the idea would be to actually do it yourself, DIY. All right, great. That's all I wanted to cover as part of this particular tutorial. It was a bit long, but I'm sure this lesson would help you actually in the future ones, wherein we talk about wire and imperative. But yeah, that's all about this. In the next one, we'll look at something new. Talk to you in the next one. Bye.